Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of eHealthyinfo podcast series, Myths to Medicine, where we break down real science from hype. On today's episode, we're discussing about longevity, and I'm your host, Ashma Baruwal. Longevity has suddenly become one of the biggest health conversations in the world, and to break it down, what's driving aging, we have Dr. Bibhushan Basnet, CEO of eHealthyinfo. Hello, Dr. Bibhushan Basnet. How are you? And thank you for joining us today.
Ashmana, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of the show, and I'm hopeful that I can shed some light on longevity and answer some questions.
I'm glad you're here with us. So, longevity has suddenly, become the biggest health conversations in the world. It's trending everywhere, from social media to celebrity clinics. It feels like it's suddenly exploded overnight. Why do you think that is happening?
I think we all want to live longer. And plus, now we have better science, more technology, and rising chronic disease in the community. And the simple fact that we want to live longer and also live healthier. People now just don't want to live a long lifespan. They want a long, healthy span. That's why the conversation has shifted from lifestyle choices that can slow aging more than in the past. And I think that's a big role of social media these days. The digital media, people are listening about longevity, people are hearing about longevity. We can save it from a heart attack or a stroke these days. Tech has evolved so much. We have got pretty good at helping you not dying young. But nobody wants to spend the last 20 years feeling terrible. That's why longevity is the fashion these days. You want to make sure you live longer and you want to make sure you live healthier. And plus, there's so much of hype nowadays in the social media. There are trendy things like peptides, energy boosters. These things have little to no evidence, but we hear them so much. And we also have data from millions of people to the last 30 to 40 years on how to live healthier. And that's why everyone's talking about longevity. I'm so glad we are talking about longevity too in this series today.
Absolutely. And we are so thankful for your time. And we hope our listeners will learn a lot from our episode, from this episode as well. Moving on to the myths that are surrounding longevity these days. As you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of trends going on in social media, and since we call ourselves as the Mythbusters, we wanted you to break down some of the biggest longevity myths that are floating around in the media right now in a very rapid fire round. So let's move on to myth number one. You can reverse your biological age in a few weeks. What's your take on that?
Well, that sounds exciting, right? But the science don't support it. I wish it was true. There are human clinical trials on calorie restriction, plant-based diet, keto diet, lifestyle changes, including exercise, using drug regimens like metformin or vitamin D to supplement and see if that can reverse down aging or slow down aging. But it does take time. Let me tell you about this study. So, this study shows that if you restrict 25% of your calories, you can get younger by zero point 0.6 years. That's almost 200 days of extra days in your life. But that comes after you restrict your diet for 24 months. And next study I can tell you is that there's a study where people were supplemented vitamin D for 16 weeks that decrease the epigenetic age that decrease your age by almost 1.9 years compared to placebo. That's a good time, right? 16 weeks. So I wish there was a quick fix to reverse your biological age in a few weeks, but longevity takes time.
Thank you for so much for sharing that tip. There is definitely no hack for increasing your longevity by in a few weeks, guys. Myth number two, supplements are the main key to longevity.
Well, most of that is great marketing. Hats off to that. Supplements can help with specific deficiencies like vitamin D in areas with limited sunlight exposure. And that too, lifestyle matters a lot. Like in the US, we get sunlight exposure only when you get out. We work indoors mostly. Most of our elderly population are living in nursing homes, and that's why we're vitamin D deficient. And vitamin D out here. But multivitamins to improve longevity is not supported. It's just a $1 billion market with no science.
Okay. So a lot of marketing then. Guys, so we'd rather take that tropical vacation or another beach vacation than stacking on those supplements, okay? Myth number three, extreme fasting equals a longer life.
Well, intermittent fasting helps, but extreme versions are often oversold and that can harm you rather than helping you. This study shows that intermittent fasting can lead to significant reductions in weight, BMI, your LDL cholesterol, and blood pressure, and that could be a promising strategy to improve your metabolic syndrome. But the results were very short lived. We still don't have a lot of research to explore the long term benefits. Plus, optimum fasting protocol is different for different people, like in young females, my mom who's in her 70s, or someone who's diabetic. It is not for everyone. You need to individualize and cater what really works for you.
Do it in moderation and listen to your body, is the takeaway. Myth number four, cold plunges dramatically extend lifespan.
Well, I've seen influencers do these ice challenges and cold plunges. Cold plunges does have effect on inflammation, stress, immunity, and even sleep quality, but most of the effects are short term. Cold exposure may improve your mood and stress tolerance, but there's no such evidence that it extends your lifespan. We do have a few randomized controlled trials, small sample sizes, and I would say there's a lack of diversity in these study populations. Plus, you got to take this with a pinch of salt. Like, for example, if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, or any rhythm problems, nerve problems, circulation issues, you got to be very careful. The American College of Sports Medicine says that if you do cold plunging, your blood pressure goes up to as high as 20%. So if you have high blood pressure to begin with, that's a problem. The blood pressure values during the cold exposure goes exponentially high, and that increases your cardiovascular risk. You are doing for some short-term stress relief. Well, you're having high blood pressure, not worth it. And for some people, you can have cold shock, meaning you can gasp for air, hyperventilate, you can have high blood pressure, and that increases cardiac workload. So, will it fit you? It's for you to decide. There are many other ways to relieve stress and work on well-being, though. So
Okay.
it's up to you.
So there you heard it from the expert himself. Do not follow the trend, especially if you are diabetic, have hypertension, or any other conditions, as mentioned by Dr. Bassnett. Be very careful when you're following any trends, especially with cold plunges, as he mentioned right now. And lastly, the myth number five, 10,000 steps is a magic number for life.
Well, that too came from a big marketing campaign back in the 1960s from Japan.
Oh.
Studies have shown that major benefits with steps starts around 4,000 steps,
Mm.
while the effect starts plateauing around 7 to 8,000 steps. For example, among older women, if you can get more than 4,000 steps a day, 1 to 2 days a week, that's more than enough. That gives you low mortality and low cardiovascular disease. Well, if you have more steps, you can have better outcomes. But overall, we recommend a higher number of steps regardless of daily pattern. So that can give you better outcomes.
So 4,000 to 8,000 is the magic number.
Yeah,
As
more the better. But yeah, 4,000, at least 4,000 to begin with.
hmm So we really should not be stressing if we didn't hit the 10,000 mark today, guys. 4,000 to 8,000. 8,000, of course, as Dr. Basnet said, is the sweet number. But if you go off that, that is fine as well. But we don't need to stress, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. So now, so as you mentioned, Dr. Bassett, these myths are over exaggerated or oversimplified because these are trending right now. So, if we are to move away from the trends, what actually drives the needle when it comes to longevity?
Well, I always emphasize four things for my patients.
Hmm.
Number one, sleep. That's the most underrated tool. Plus, it comes free. Second, daily movements. Not just workouts, but moving often and sitting less. And third, proteins. You got to work on your muscle mass. Muscle isn't just about looks, it's survival. And fourth, and one of the key things, nutrition. We live in the era of ultra processed food. You got to make sure you work on whole food, like in the Mediterranean style diet or the diet that's famous in the blue zone areas. I always tell my patients, and now I want to tell our viewers, longevity is not about intensity or just one thing. You got to find the balance. It's about what you repeat most days. That's the key.
Consistency, right?
Mhm.
So, since you mentioned sleep earlier, why is sleep so tightly linked to longevity?
Well, we are learning that constantly shifting bedtimes can age your body as much as chronic stress. We have seen studies that involves people who work night shifts. They have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease than people who work day shifts.
No.
And so that's one example. But overall, poor sleep raises inflammation. It worsens your insulin resistance, increases your cortisol levels, and disrupts your repair mechanisms. So, irregular sleep can rapidly put the body under stress. Good sleep is one of the most powerful tools we have to slow down aging. And the best thing, it's free.
Absolutely. We all love our sleep, don't we? When I was looking into longevity, I came across quite a few articles on low intensity training, zone 2 low intensity training. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
Mm. Zone 2 training has gained much popularity these days. But overall, it's a very simple thing. It's training that can increase your heart rate to around 70%. We don't want your heart rate to increase very high while you train. It can be done just by simple things like cycling, biking, swimming, rowing, brisk walk, or even using an elliptical or going for a hiking. It improves the mitochondrial health. These mitochondria are basically engines inside your cells. The best thing about this zone 2 training is that it's sustainable, it's comfortable, and it's very accessible. Like I can go outside and go for a quick run and a quick walk and get into that zone 2 and train myself. So overall, it's sustainable, it improves your metabolic health, and it lowers inflammation. So it's a win-win.
Thank you for explaining that in a very simplified manner. Now, moving on to muscle mass and protein intake that you just mentioned a while ago. Protein is another hot debate, right now. Does eating more protein shorten lifespan or improve it?
Well, context matters here.
Mhm.
Increased dietary protein improves your lifespan when you have it from good sources, like plant sources. But if you get your protein from animal sources like red and processed meat, that will decrease your lifespan. So the effect on longevity from proteins is mostly from the source rather than the total amount alone. Next scenario, let me tell you a next scenario. There have been studies on adults more than 85 years of age. That's our elderly population. It has been shown that if they increase their protein intake. The mortality was decreased more than 50%.
Wow.
So higher protein intake is linked to better longevity because it preserves the muscle mass. This is so much common because as we get older, we lose our muscle mass. In fact, losing muscle is a bigger threat to healthy aging than eating proteins. So we got to find the optimal balance about total protein intake, and we got to try to get protein from good sources like plant protein sources or lean proteins. And overall, minimizing red and processed meat is the key to longevity.
So we need to cut down on our red meat and focus on more clean protein, good proteins. Now, when I was looking into longevity, I heard and read a lot of articles on blue zones. We hear them about blue zones about all the time. So, what do these communities really teach us about?
I knew you were going to ask about the blue zones. Hey, these blue zones are very simple. The blue zones are where our friends and families live, where regular people live, like Sardinia in Italy, Okinawa in Japan. I, cap- I think there's a small town in Greece called Icaria, and a small town in Costa Rica, Loma Linda in California. These are the blue zones. The main thing about these blue zones, what we have noticed is they have a predominantly plant-based diet, or they have a Mediterranean style dietary pattern. They have regular physical activity that's integrated into daily life. That's the key there. And they're strong social networks. And yes, the environment is good too. Like, let me start by the diet. They consume legumes, vegetables, whole grains, and extra virgin olive oil, minimal processed food, and red meat. That diet is rich in polyphenols that slows down the aging process. Now, going to the physical activity, they don't go to the gym. They have natural sustaining movements through traditional occupations like agriculture, animal husbandry. So that really helps. Next one is family bonds. We are missing family bonds these days.
Mm.
They had family bonds. They have even neighborhood bonds. They had religious devotions and community engagements. That's so much important. And the environmental factors, yeah, higher altitude, mild climate, geographical isolation, clean air, a mineral-rich water, they definitely help. But these blue zones don't rely on any hacks. Their secret is consistency. They do all the things we have repeated today. They move naturally, they eat simple, and they sleep well. It's lifestyle and not genetics.
Okay. So it seems like, we can all create our own blue zones in our home, eating clean,
Mhm.
focusing on our sleep, regular movements, and all. Now we're almost towards the end of the show. So, if you had to give our listeners three practical longevity tips, if that's something that they could start on right from today, what would it be?
Three practical tips. All right. Number one, walk more,
Mm-hmm.
especially after meals, during work, during breaks, every chance you get. Sitting is the new smoking these days. So that means you got to walk more. Number two, protect your sleep like a prescription. You got to make sure you have regular sleep. And number three, eat real whole food and maintain strong muscles with those real proteins. So small habits, repeat daily, then beats any short-lived trend.
So, longevity is not about stacking supplements or adding more to your to do list. It's about being consistent, making informed choices, and leading a clean, healthy lifestyle. At eHealthyinfo, we are here to cut through the noise and bring you evidence based, data driven insights. Thank you, Dr. Basnet, for joining us on our very first episode. I hope our listeners were able to take away very practical tips and move away from the myths that are floating around in the social media right now.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashma. I hope that I was able to help your listeners. And if they have any questions, any concerns, they can always uh, get back to me to my social media outlets, and we'd be happy to reach out to them.
Absolutely. If you guys enjoyed listening to our show, please hit that like and follow button. We will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashma. Have a good one.